Okay. Are you guys able to see the screen now?
Fine, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we'll be exploring further and we'll try to understand these three. Okay. So now, as we are dealing with only very few containers, one or two containers, it will be very easy. Okay, imagine the situation when you need to handle multiple containers. Okay, for example, 100 containers. So every time you can't go and open your this thing which we call it as I think Docker is not running. So Docker. So this Docker engine will be able to help you with creating and managing your Docker. That's it. Okay. So no other activities like managing your containers. So here you can see. I think you're well aware of this Docker software. You'll be having this images section and container section. So hardly you are dealing with one individual container, right? So at one time you can just stop your container or restart your compute container. You can change the port number. That's it. But in the real time, we'll be handling with so much of traffic, right? For example, you can
Hello,
just
sir.
yeah,
Are you recording the class, sir?
yeah, record చేస్తున్నా.
Okay.
So while you are working on a real time, for example, if IPL match is going on, okay, so there you might not be needing just one or two containers to be able to handle the job. There you will be handling thousands of containers at the same time, right? So when I say thousands of containers, you can't individually go to your command prompt and you need to run the command like docker run and a specific port number, right? So you can't run thousand containers at the same time, right? So hardly you can see docker engine. It will be able to run just one or two containers. That's it. As you can see here, just you can hardly this managing this 10 containers is only a difficult job for me, right? So when the real time as I told, you can take example of this IPL match. There you can see at least 1 crore people are watching you at the same time, right? So 1 crore people, and for example I'll say, if one container is handling 100 people, okay, so imagine if you are handling 1 crore people, right? So then you need at least 1 lakh servers to handle your job. So imagine you can't add 1 lakh servers at the same time, right? So you can't just go to your what we say our terminal and you can say write docker terminal docker run. So docker run, you can't do that. So we need specific tools which can do this job for you. For example, if I want to add under 100 containers at the same time, so it need to happen, right? So adding 100 containers, so it's not like go running the command, starting the command, no. So it should be in an automated and it should happen in a very very smooth manner, right? So then these orchestration tools will come into existence. Okay, so we call them as orchestration tools. So these tools, what specifically they do is they handle the containers. Okay, so Docker is nothing but it can be able to create images and build containers. That's it, right? So managing the containers For example, creating, uh, running, deleting. So these are all some bigger jobs where you will be handling hundreds of containers, maybe I can say thousands of containers at the same time, right? So in that phase, we need orchestration tools. For that, we'll be using these tools called as ECS, Elastic Container Service. Then we'll be using EKS, Elastic Kubernetes Service, and you can also use Fargate. Okay, so these are the tools which we will be using in our AWS class. So this we'll be learning, and also you might ask like only these are the tools available in the market. No, there are plenty of tools available in the market which will do the same job for you. Okay, so in that case, ECS is specific to AWS. That means this total ECS Elastic Container Service is completely developed by Amazon. Okay, so the creator of this ECS service is Amazon only. So okay, so this is specific to AWS. That means AWS has developed this container service, whereas this EKS stands for Kubernetes service. So this is developed by Kubernetes, which is an open source software. Okay, it is open source and it is available for free. Okay, so this is vastly used in our managing the container service, and we can also say that around 65% of the existing containers are managed using this Kubernetes service, and it is also very very important. So further details we'll be learning in our when we are doing practical with Kubernetes. Okay. So when we do the practical part, we'll try to explore more about this. For now, you can just simply understand that. So ECS is developed by AWS, and it is a free service provided by AWS. Okay. For now, you can just remember this. Okay. So right now we'll explore more about this ECS. Okay, so we'll try to understand how exactly we'll be able to manage hundreds of containers or thousands of containers at the same time. Okay, so before going deeper into this EKS is available on all the platform. That means EKS is available on Google. Maybe they call it as GKF or something. Similarly, it is available on Azure. So maybe Azure they call it as Azure Kubernetes Service. So maybe Google also will call it as maybe GKS service, whereas Google Kubernetes service. Okay. So basically, the concept will remain the same, but the thing is only the interface or the dashboard which we will be working on that will be changing. But most of the thing will which should if you learn Kubernetes, you can try to implement the same on GKS as well as AKS and also EKS. Okay, why? Because the concept will remain the same. Okay, right. So again, coming to this, so I think we have some PPT such that we can go further. So before going further, I can just try to understand. So there are two types here. So unmanaged, next, managed. Okay. So as we know that last time we have worked about we are working on this AWS. So in AWS there are actually some things which you can be given the you can give the responsibility to the AWS cloud completely, right? So similarly, we understood there is a concept called Lightsail, okay, which is a premium service, and where most of the things are handled by Amazon only. So you need not have much knowledge about your instances. You need not have much knowledge about load balancer or much knowledge on elastic IP. So everything were taken care in Lightsail, which made the whole entire ECT process very easy, right? In the same way, when we are working on containers, as we have discussed that there are so many things. So ECS, we can do this container hosting. Similarly, EKS, you can do container hosting, right? So here what happens is Amazon is bringing you one new feature here. The feature name is called Fargate. So basically we call it as AWS Fargate. Okay. So as I told, we'll be dealing with several thousands of containers. That means you'll be using at least few hundreds of servers at the same time. So in managed service, what you need to do is you need to create our EC2 instances, handle EC2 instances, and what happens? So install Docker engines, right? So handle containers. So add or delete delete EC2 manually, or add or delete containers manually. So I think when you are working on this managed thing, you have to take the complete responsibility of handling everything. So you need to create your instances, you need to install Docker engines, and you need to make your servers communicate with each other. You need to manage, so you need to handle traffic. So everything is manual here. Okay, that means without your action, there will be nothing can be done. Okay, so this everything will be done manually. Okay, right now what we are doing right now. So we have creating images and we are trying to execute run command and all that we are doing manually, right? So this will come under managed. Okay, whereas in unmanaged section, so it is called as Forget. Okay, so in Fargate, what happened is this is a premium version. Okay, so you can just understand for your understanding. I'm telling. So this is premium. So what happens in this is EC2 handled by AWS. So instances are created by Amazon itself. Similarly, softwares handled by AWS. Okay, auto scaling handled by AWS. Okay, so EC2 and containers handled by AWS. Okay, so everything. So even we can say traffic handled by AWS. Similarly, we can say uh, load balancer handled by AWS. As you can say, this is completely a premium service. Okay, so just remember two things while we are working on this containers, especially on AWS cloud. Okay, in AWS cloud, we'll have two things: one is managed and one is unmanaged. Okay, so in managed section, so every time you need to uh, install everything by yourself. For example, we have worked on this Docker engine. So we have selected one laptop, selected one operating system. On the operating system, we have installed Docker engine. On the Docker engine, we have installed VS Code. In the VS Code, we have written this Docker commands. Then we have built an image. Then we have run it on a container. Okay, so this all process is there, right? So here what happens is here we can everything need to be happened manually. If you want to add a container, you need to execute a command. If you want to delete a container, you can execute a command. For example, if your server is not able to handle the traffic, then you need to add additional servers. Okay, so that all manual process you have to do. Okay, every time you need to add additional servers, and when the load is more, you need to add additional server, and when the load is less, you need to remove the running server. Okay, so everything is managed, right? So you need to do everything manually. Okay, so whereas it comes to this unmanaged service. Okay, so here unmanaged service, we can leave everything to the AWS. So AWS will do the complete job for you. Okay, so what happens is, you every time you want to run a Docker engine, you need an operating system or instance, right? So what happens is, so this AWS will create the instances by itself only. Okay, so you need not create any specific instance. So all the servers will be created by this AWS only. So all the necessary software like Docker engine or any other software required, everything is used by everything is handled by AWS only. So auto scaling, when the traffic is more, automatically it will add containers. When the traffic is less, automatically it will delete the containers. Okay, so all these instances and containers will be handled by AWS. Okay, so any necessary things are required. For example, elastic IPs or load balancer, if at all, if required. So everything will be arranged by Fargate. Okay, so that is why they are calling it as a premium service. Okay, so some we need to pay, here you can reduce the costs. So whereas this is actually this is a premium service, so here the cost will be little more. Okay, so you, but it will save a lot of time for us. For example, if you have taken a project of IPL, okay, so IPL, you, as you know, that is everything is unpredictable, right? So sometimes you might face a traffic of more than 1 crore people, or sometimes you can face the traffic of hardly 50 lakhs or 40 lakhs people. So that time, so instantly you need to able to delete multiple servers at a single time within minutes, right? So within minutes you need to able to delete 1,000 servers. So that time you can't able to manage it by yourself, right? If it is, if you are handling around 10 servers, you can just manually turn off or reboot your computers servers. Whereas in Fargate, so automatically everything should happen in the background. So in that case, you can go for Fargate. Okay, so where you need to do most of the automation part. Okay, so maximum thing is automated, so that time you can go to unmanaged. If you are having this managed, or you have some good expert team or good knowledgeable people about this handling containers, then you can hire the go to this managed section. Okay, so right now what we shall do is, first we'll try to understand the concept manually. Okay, so first, how manually we'll be able to create and run containers on ECS. Okay, so how we will be creating one cluster. So how inside the cluster, how we will be able to add our servers. Okay, inside these servers, how we'll be running our Docker engines. Okay, inside this Docker engine, how we will be running your containers. Okay, so this manual part we'll try to understand today, and then we'll go for this AWS Fargate in the next. Okay, so why? Because first we'll try to learn the hard way. Then in the second phase, we can just how we can done in a easiest way. Okay, so that we will try to understand. So first, I think we'll explore this ECR today. ECR we haven't done, so ECR also we'll try to explore. ECR is nothing but Elastic Container Registry. So registry, as you know, we have already worked on Docker registry. So Docker registry is also called as Docker Hub, right? So this ECR we'll be working on. Okay, so see, this ECR is almost same as Docker Hub. Okay, so last time we were uploading our projects to Docker Hub, right? In the same way, today what we will try to do is, so instead of using this Docker Hub, we will upload our project to ECR. Okay, so that means in the Amazon cloud, AWS cloud. So how to do that using commands, we'll try to explore. Okay, so further going into this, so for some deep overview, I'll share some PPT such that you can get familiar to this. So not this one. So not this one. One second, I'll get that PPT. Okay, so we'll try to explore this Amazon EC2 container service. Okay, so I think now you are little familiar with this containers. So why we are using containers, that you are little familiar. So we doesn't know what exactly is this cluster management and ECS architecture. Okay, so this will try to go deeper and we'll try to understand. Okay, so what is this cluster? What, how we will be managing it? How to create a cluster? How to handle and how exactly is this ECS architecture is. So we'll go in a deeper way. Then we'll go to the practical part. Okay. So coming down. So exactly, I think we know about containers. So this we have already understood while working on our Docker engine. So here you can see server we have installed an operating system. So using this Docker engine, we'll be creating multiple apps. Okay. So, what are the advantages of containers? We already know these are portable, very small, flexible. You can just add and delete whenever you can want. Very fast. Why? Why? Because it is of lightweight and it is very very efficient, right? So coming down, so I think this also we have evolved, right? So here you can see there are three types of databases, okay? Or else you can see three types of development teams. So one team is working on order. So one team is working on user section. One team is working on this shipping section. In monolithic architecture, as you know, all the things are installed on one single thing. Okay, as you can see, only one single databases. So whereas in this microservices, we are splitting the job into multiple containers. As you can see, host one. So here it will be handling per one particular container with one particular section. Maybe you can say order UI. So order UI order is completely hosted on one container. Okay. Similarly, user. So user is installed on one specific container. Similarly, shipping. So that is installed in one specific container. And we all know that all these containers will be working on one single engine. Okay, Docker engine will be handling these containers. Okay, so containers are natural. These are all advantages we already know. Simple to model, simple to write, only just commands. Any app, any language. So we have already tested with HTML, we have tried with HTTPD, and we have tried with Apache. And if you are getting some time, and also please explore using this Python also. Okay, so Python also, what I'm recommending is need not download all the what we say you need not download all the Python languages and all. Simply there are so many repositories available on Docker Hub, or else I think it's the time I'll show you. So just get into this Docker Hub. So inside this Docker Hub, I'll say mm, so simply what you can do is search here some, I'll say sample uh, Python uh, website. Okay, so here you can see these are all different website. So I think okay, this will give to this. I'll just search for repositories. Okay. So sample website, sample. Okay. So here you can see sample verified content. Okay. In community will be you'll be finding it, or else you can directly search in Google also. What's there? I'll search sample Python project. You can say Docker Hub. Okay. So So I think sample Python project correct only. Okay. Explore Docker command image repository. Here you can cite search. So it is searching in Docker only. So I'll search for images. Okay, not extensions. No, or else you can just take this Python start. Okay. So this is one because as you know this is one public repository. Everybody can put their project. So there are so many projects but we are not getting there are actually so many most of the people they'll be working on this free uh, this what we say free I think free plan yes free plan only most of the people will be working. So some people will put their project on this Docker hub, so you can access that simply. For example, I think I'm not getting today, don't know why. So I'll search again sample Docker uh, Python, simple Python project. We'll say Docker Hub. So this is also one project. So all these projects it will be following with hub.docker.com. Okay. So here you can see this is one sample website which they have built. I think this is also not the sample website. Python Docker file example. Let me see. Okay, I don't know why we are not getting today. So I'll say sample Docker file, sample Docker project, Docker hub. So it is taking me to hello world. No, so or else I can click on explore. I'll say sample. Okay, so here you can see this is one sample web app. So one is this is sample rest. So sample rest is like a sample API. So similarly a sample app resting, so a sample app web staging. So similarly you can see a sample app, a simple Python app using Flash that can be easily deployed on OK2. Okay, so sample desk. So these are all sample applications you can get from here. Okay, you might be asking, sir, how to get this to my machine. So simply what you can do is already we know. So we know this run command. For example, this application is there. Okay, sample web app. Okay, they have developed using this Angular JS. Okay, so as you know, this container we need not install all the packages, right? So what you can simply do is Simply what you can do is docker pull command. Okay, so just copy this command and you will just execute here. Okay, so when you execute the command here, the project will be downloaded and you can see the project in this images section. Okay, once you get this project inside your images section, you know how to run the project. Okay, so that is how you can practice. Why this is why I'm telling this is because we have tried only HTML, so we haven't tried any React or we haven't tried any Node or any Python project. Okay, so what I'm asking is you need not learn all the how to install React or how to configure this Node, how to install this Python, how to configure. You need not learn. Simply what you can do is you can get some sample project from here and you can just download and you can run the container. Okay, I think I have done one project also here. I'll just see if it is available, then it will be easy for you. Okay, no, I don't think I have one any of that. Okay, so I think I don't have any project like that, so we can just ignore. Right, so coming back to our class, so we are working on ECS PDF, right? So any app, any language, so that is what just I wanted to give an example, like in a container you can bring any language and you can just deploy it on your machine. So image in the version, so this we have tried. Test and deployed we have tried. Stateless server, decrease change risk. So this stateless server we'll explore while working on this ECS. Okay, next, now it comes to ECS. So why build Amazon ECS? So now this will explain you further deeper into this. Okay, so right now we only know about this architecture. Okay, this architecture is specific to one single unit. Okay, one single server having an operating system. It is running containers. Okay, this we are familiar with, one server, right? Now imagine we have these many servers. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. 12 and 1 2 3 4 5, that means totally there are 60 servers. Okay, so 60 servers are working to run our containers. Okay, so now you might able to understand what exactly is a cluster is. So you can see this combination of all these servers together, we call it as cluster, right? So whereas when individual unit we call it as instance or EC2 or server. Okay, so cluster will stand for group of instances or group of servers, right? So handling this one or two servers is very very easy, right? Because we'll have only limited access, so limited burden will be there. For example, hardly you can handle five servers at a time. So imagine a situation where you are handling cluster. So cluster, as you know, there is no limited number to this. So in this particular cluster, there are 60 servers. Okay, so it's not easy job. So then this ECS will come into picture. Okay, so how to maintain these many servers at the same time? So then you will be using this ECS or EKS or Forget. Okay, so how to create this cluster and how to handle this servers. So that we'll explore in the coming classes. Okay, so some cluster challenges. I think some customer challenges. So for example, we are the customers. So how we will be managing that? So cluster management. So managing these many servers at the same time is a very very difficult job for everyone, right? So when we are going to AWS for service, so they will help us how to do that. Okay. For that they have given us a solution called ECS. Okay. So cluster management is difficult job for the customer. So availability. So we can't say where is our customer and which server is providing the service, which server is handling more traffic, so which server is resources are available free. So that we don't know. So scheduling. So when to add the servers automatically. And also when you are dealing with multiple servers, security will become the main concern. Okay, so then monitoring, so monitoring the health of all the servers at the same time by one single person is also a very very difficult job. And again integration with AWS service. Okay, so some servers you might be as you know, we can create servers from multiple places. So we can create servers on Lightsail, so we can create servers on auto scaling group, we can create servers from our EC2 section. So integrating all the services servers together, even though they are all in this in one individual cloud within the AWS, but communication between these servers, it is also an important task. So how to integrate servers from different locations within the AWS. Okay, that also we have to, that is a difficult task for a customer. Okay, so cluster management. So here you try to understand what exactly happens inside the cluster. Okay, so here you can see AZ1. So AZ2. So AZ1 and AZ2 will stand for availability zone. So as you already know, we have availability zone. So currently we are working on availability zone Mumbai, which is nothing but AP South, right? So similarly, if your clusters are available on different regions, for example, this is Mumbai region, AZ1, Mumbai region, AZ2. I'll take it as Kannada region. Okay. So each region, you know, for Mumbai region we are having two servers, whereas for Kannada we are assigning one server. Okay. So as you can see, in each availability zone, there can be one server or multiple server. For example, I'll take AZ1. So this availability zone, what I'm trying to do, I'm creating two instances. Okay. So as you can see, this is one instance, this is one instance. So in each instance, I'm installing Docker, and inside the Docker engine, I will be able to run the containers, right? So here the main important thing is this task. What is this task? And we know container, right? So we already worked on container. So in our for our understanding, we just know that we'll install one operating system. So inside that we'll install Docker, and the Docker will be able to run your container. So that is all, that is the knowledge we have. So here the new thing, so they have added is task. So you might be asking, sir, what is this task? So task will trigger some action. So what is that action? It might be creating the containers or deleting the containers. Okay, so that task will be working on practically. Okay, so this task will do as an action. So for example, I want to create 100 containers. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just trigger one task. So what it will do, it will instantly create 100 containers. Okay, similarly I want to specifically delete 50 containers. So the task will do the job for me. Okay, so the main thing while managing the cluster is how to handle the task. Okay, how to create a task. Okay, what type of tasks you can do, so that will be exploring. Okay, so as you can see, in each instance there is one task. So here you can see, in this instance also there is task, right? So how we will be able to communicate using this task and trigger actions, so that we will learn while working on ECS. Okay, so here you can do see, so this communication, it will mostly happen using the task. Okay, so this task will try to understand during the practical, as I know how to handle the container using tasks. Okay, so we will be creating a task that will be managing or handling our container. Okay, and what is the role of task, that we'll understand very clearly while working on practical. So coming here, so this is actually we already gone through monolithic architecture, two level architecture, shared architecture. Okay, I think there is no two level architecture now, so we'll be working on shared level only, so that you can understand easily from here. Okay, so this is called as this shared architecture. This two level is not there, so this we are working on shared state. Okay, so ECS works like this. Okay. So as you can see, our servers are distributed, right? So here distributed account two availability zones. This is one availability zone, Mumbai region. This availability zone on Canada region. Okay, totally three servers are there. Okay. So in availability zone 1, two servers. In availability zone 2, one server. So there should be some common thing we should be able to manage the communication between this availability zones and available between the servers. So that is the place where cluster will come into existence. So Amazon will provide you one cluster management engine. Okay. So as we have already understood, cluster, this is individual server, right? So this is cluster, so group of servers, right? So what Amazon is doing is it is providing us one cluster management engine. So now you can understand. So cluster management, so cluster management will be able to handle your servers. Okay. So this cluster management engine will be provided by AWS to handle your servers. So how to do that is, so basically there should be some communication between these engines, right? So between these servers, as you can see, there are just distributed, but there is no proper way of communication, right? So for that we use one agent. Okay, so what we can do is we'll use one agent communication. So inside this cluster engine, we'll have one agent communication service. So this agent communication service will provide signals to each of the containers. Okay. So any commands or any orders or any trigger actions will be sent through agent communication service. So first you will be creating one cluster engine. Okay. So how this cluster engine will work is send signal to our instances is through agent communication service. So this agent communication service will have communication with all your instances. That means inside the cluster you will have all these engines, so all these instances, so all these instances are connected through agent communication service. So what this agent communication service can do, it can send signals to specific instances. Okay, for example, I'm using this cluster engine. So for example, in this is availability zone, I want to send some signal to this particular instance. So how we can do that is using this agent communication service. So this cluster management will tell agent communication service to send a signal to AZ2 instance. So here there should be someone who can receive and understand these signals, right? So here we will be installing one ECS agent. So what is this ECS agent will do is this ECS agent will be able to communicate with the agent communication service. If there is no ECS agent, this agent communication service cannot communicate with the container. Okay. So this is one common software which is provided by cluster engine. Okay. This is how they are trying to fix our problem. So the communication problem between your server and cluster. So simple thing what you can understand is there will be one cluster engine. Inside one cluster engine there will be agent communication service. So what is the agent use of this agent communication services? It will help you to communicate with the individual servers. Even though there are hundreds of servers or thousands of servers, you can specifically point to one specific server. Okay, as you can see, this will send, so send signal to signal to servers which are located in availability zone 2. So what this agent service will do, it will send signal specifically to that particular instance. So not all the servers will get alerted, individual server will get alerted. So here you can send signal, so close this server. So that means all the this server will get closed. Okay, so who will take that action? So this ECS agent will take the action in this instance. It will receive the commands and it will use the execute the commands. So this is how they try to fix it. So again, you can see there should be some storage and value. So key value store, right? So there will be some data assigned to this, right? For example, cluster management engine is there. So there should be a small action. For example, this person want to send some signal. Okay, so that will happen using key value store. So if you are a little familiar with JSON, you will be knowing this key value pairs, or else even if you don't know about any key value pairs, not a problem. Okay, still you will be able to understand. Just up to this case, just try to understand the cluster management. In cluster management engine, you'll be having all the servers connected to it. Okay, how this cluster management will communicate with this all the servers is using this agent communication service. So this agent communication service will send signal to any of the server which is ordered by cluster management. Okay, so how this instance will receive the signal is through this ECS agent. Okay, so this is very very important, what we say, picture or structure for this architecture which we are talking, right? So this is the architecture for this ECS. Okay, so this architecture looks similar, so looks easy. So we shall try to execute in a practical way. Okay, so today you got introduced to this cluster management using ECS. Okay, so practically how we do that is we'll do in a practical section. Okay, so this is one important architecture. So maybe in the interviews you'll get this question. So explain the concept of ECS or explain the architecture of ECS. So then you will able to do this, or else in some interviews they'll also ask you to uh, draw the architecture. Then you will be able to do this. So here you got introduced into two things. One is the task, and one is agent communication service and cluster management service. So they might be asking, what is the role of cluster management engine? So what is the role of ECS agent? Okay, so this you can explore furthermore and get and prepare some proper notes. Okay, so this is some of architecture to make you understand this ECS. So previously we were working with only one Docker engine, right? So here you can see in each server we are installing Docker. One server, two server, three server. So we'll be having hundreds of servers. In all this, Docker will be installed. So in this Docker, our containers will be running. Okay. So now the job is not about just a Docker engine alone. Okay, so Docker, it will be just one piece of software. So one piece of software, it will be working on the container. That's it. So the real task is how do you handle the cluster? Okay, so that becomes one important role. So in our practical part, we'll create one cluster and we will handle our servers. Okay, so that will be some lengthier practice will be there. Okay, so that you can ask. So one thing is, before going into this cluster management, you should be very familiar with what is Docker, what is image, and what is container. Okay, so right now you are doing all the tasks on one single computer, right? So in the coming classes you'll be doing the same task on multiple servers. So that is why this is the base. Here you will get complete picture of project, image, and container. Okay, so after understanding this, we will be doing the same task on multiple servers. Okay, so this we will do. So this is just one introduction to this ECS. When you do this practical, it will become much and much clear. Okay, so getting back, I think we'll complete this ECR today. So elastic cloud, elastic container registry. Okay, as I told, it is same as our Docker hub. Okay, so it will be a repository for Docker images. Okay, so we'll do practically, because already we know what exactly is Docker hub, so we need not go deeper into this. So instead of storing your, I can also write this, instead of storing images on Docker hub, we can store the images on ECR. Okay. So how to do that? We learn. Okay. So first one, login into our AWS portal. Okay, we'll do that. We'll complete this practical. So login into this AWS portal. So I'll say portal, sorry, console. You know, we're getting. I'll just try login into my account. So here we'll start working on new service. So that service called as ECR. Okay. So Elastic Container Registry. Okay. So we'll start working on this. So Elastic Container Registry. After doing on this, we can move to ECS. Okay. Elastic Container Registry. Share and deploy container software publicly and or privately. Okay. So both we can do. So I think this picture should explain you much about this. So what we are going to do, okay? So this we will be going to do. So we have written our code, right? So after that, what we have done in the previous class, we have kept it on Docker Hub, and Docker Hub we are taking the image, right? So instead of that, what we'll do is we'll create one image and we will upload it to Amazon ECR. Okay, the image will come to this place. From this place, what we can do, there are two services which we are working. One is ECS, so with this we're gonna do, and Amazon EKS. This we are going to do. So previously we have worked with Lightsail, so that is not included here. Okay. So this will be our focus for the next couple of days. Okay. How to push your image on ECR, then how to run it on ECS, and how to push the image on ECR, and how to run on EKS. So mostly all our practical in the next few days will be this. Okay, so that is the reason I have not started this ECS first. So I've just given you some introduction, and after the introduction, we are working on ECR. So we'll complete this section today, and from tomorrow's session, we'll be working on this section. We'll complete ECS, then we'll complete EKS, then we'll complete Forget. Okay. So coming back, you can just use this image. This should help. I don't know what happened to this, or else I'll share that image here. Copy image address, and I'll save in this notepad. So I have logged in into this. Go to ECR, third one. Next, okay. So here you can save. So that should help you. Then coming back, so click on get started. So here you can see it is asking for public or private. So I'll say I want public. Okay. So we'll go for public repository once. So here you can create the repository name. Okay. So repository name I'll say, so I'll say uh, 10th May. Okay, so today we are doing practical, so I'll say 10th May. Then just you can just ignore this and you can just click on create a repository. So what the person is saying, create repository. Okay, so here you can see I have created one repository here. So as you know, this will be an empty repository, it will not be having any images, right? So now I want to push my images to this location. So how to do that is, you can see here on the right section, you will be able to see view push commands. Okay, so click on this. So here you will be seeing all this detailed instructions. Okay, so almost all these things you already know. So one is you need to log in with your ID and password. That is very clear. So second, you need to build your image. That we already know. So then you already know tagging the image. So how to tag that image? So the tagging will be done here. Then we'll take push command. Okay, this all we already know. So but the thing is, previously we were doing the same thing for Docker Hub. Now we will be doing this for ECR. Okay, so what you need to do is, now before to upload or your execute this what we say AWS command. So as you know, this Docker command which always starts with Docker. In the same way, if you want to work with AWS, so you need to have the commands of AWS will start with this AWS. Okay, so previously when we are working, so we have used Docker login. Okay, so why? Because we want to send it to the Docker hub. So okay, now we are saying that it start with AWS. What is saying? So AWS, this is ID and password. Okay, so first command I will say copy, and as you know, this to execute this AWS command, I need to install one software. Okay, so for that you need to install a software called AWS Client. Okay, so just download this software, then only you will be able to execute this AWS AWS command. Okay, so to execute this AWS command, you need to install AWS CLI software. So AWS CLI starts for AWS client. Okay, so click on this AWS CLI. So we want for Windows, right? I'm using Windows operating system. So I'll click on this Windows. Okay, so it is a small piece of software, you can directly download. Okay, so here I have downloaded this Windows installer, right? I think 36 MB is there. Just install this. Okay, it's taking much time. Okay, so click on next, accept, next, and install. I'll just remove this extra software such that it will become faster. Close. So I'll just take out this because it will consume lot of memory. So I'll stop this Docker engine with Docker
Sir,
desktop.
screen struck in sir point.
ఓకే అదే స్లో అయింది కొంచెం అందుకే కొంచెం మెమరీ ఫ్రీ చేస్తున్నాను. ఇప్పుడు వస్తుందా?
రావట్లేదు సార్, రావట్లేదు. వస్తుంది సార్.
ఇప్పుడు వస్తుందమ్మా?
వస్తుంది సార్.
ఓకే. So just I'm completing the installation of this AWS client. Okay. So in this notepad also I'll write down. So download AWS client software. Download and install. Okay. Okay, I'll complete this. Okay. So now our AWS command line interface it has installed. Okay. Right. So I'll go back. Okay. So now before executing this command, I have to log in into my AWS account. So to do that, I'll just go to my VS Code. So Visual Studio Code. So I'll go to my terminal and I'll say new terminal. So here I can now able to execute my AWS command. So I'll just check if at all AWS is working or not. So I said AWS. Okay. So as you can see, it is working. Why? Because it is asking for AWS and its parameters. Okay. So I'll say AWS login. Okay. So we shall see AWS login. Okay, so it is asking so many other things. So I think it's not AWS login, you should say AWS configure. Okay, so AWS configure. So I think I'll put one this thing for you. So magnifier. Okay, so first command what I have tried to do is AWS configure. Okay, so here you can see it is asking for AWS access key ID. So we need AWS access key ID. So if I say enter, I need AWS secret access key, then default region, then default output, none. Okay, so these four we need for the login. Whereas for Docker engine, what we have done, so Docker login, we have entered email address and password. Okay, so for this we need access key and secret key, right? So how to get that will follow. So here I'll say AWS configure command. So next, get access key and secret key. So how to get that we learn. So to get this, okay, so we'll go and just get into your AWS account. Okay, so this is my AWS account, right? So here what you need to do is you need to go to IAM. Okay, so click on this IAM. Okay, so instead of this IAM, you will be finding it the right side. Here you can see my security credentials. Okay, so click on that, click on my security credentials. Okay, the scroll down. Okay, so you will find access keys section. Okay, so inside this access key section, what you can do is you can ask for create access key. So click on create access key. So click on this I understand, then click on create access key. So here you can see they are providing you this access key and secret access key. So what you can do is you can also download this file and keep it. Okay, I have downloaded this file. So in this file I'll be able to get the downloaded copy. Okay, so I'll say close. Why? Because I have downloaded a copy. So this is secret key ID and this is secret key. Okay, so minimize, click on done. Now go back to your terminal. So inside the terminal, again you can type. So I'll say and again say AWS configure. Okay, so enter. Now it's asking for AWS access key ID. So we have it. So this is access key ID. Just copy this, copy and paste. Right click and paste. Okay, so enter. Now it is asking for the secret key. Okay, secret key is also available. So select and copy this secret key, control C, and here I'll say control V. Okay, now enter. So default region, what you can do is you can leave it for blank, not a problem. Leave the default region blank. Enter. Default output format, you can leave it blank. Okay, so enter. Okay, so now you have logged in into this AWS configure. Okay, right? So now I have logged in into my AWS configure. So coming back now, again I'll go to my Amazon account. So I already know the instructions they have given me, right? So the instructions I'll go through. So ECR, Lightsail Container Registry, right? So here I have created one repository, right? So this is my repository. So I want to upload this. So I'll just open this and I will see view push commands. So click on this. Now this step by step, there are four steps. I'll do one by one. So copy this first command. Now our AWS command will work. Why? Because we have installed AWS client software. Okay, so copy the first command and execute here. Okay, first command I'm executing. You need not type anything, just copy and paste. Right, enter, click on enter. Right. So what is saying? So Docker engine is not working. So why? Because we have just closed our Docker. It's not running here. So that is the problem. So I'll go back and I'll open my Docker software. So click on Docker. So now the Docker need to start working. Okay. So Docker software, it is starting. Right. So I think after starting this Docker engine only, we'll be able to execute our commands. So we'll wait for that.
Sir, sir, if you don't mind, one thing I have to ask.
Chipam.
The recording has paused, sir. Can you check it? Okay.
లేదమ్మా అవుతుంది.
Okay. Sir.
Okay. Now I think our Docker engine is running. So we'll go back and try our Docker command. So I'll go to my AWS CLI and I'll execute my first command. Simply, I think I already copied. So simply click on paste. Okay. Now enter. Okay. As you can see, login succeeded. Okay. So login is completed. So I'll go back and to my AWS portal and I will see second command. So this is my second command. So I'll copy. So this will build the command using the name this one. Okay. So copy. I'll paste. Sorry, not this command. So copy and paste. Okay, so this will build one project with the name 10th May. Okay, and make sure that you are inside the project folder. Okay, so as we already know this command docker build, it will build the command 10th May is my project name and space dot. Why? Because we are inside the project folder. Okay, so enter. So it will build a build one docker image for me. Right, one docker engine has been created, right? So docker image has been created. So third step, it will say copy. As we already know, we need to put this tag name, right? So tagging will be done. So tagging, we shall copy this command, tagging command, copy. We shall use the same here. Right click and execute. This is my third command. Enter. Right, tagging has been done. Next, fourth step. For fourth command, copy Docker. This is push command. So copy, and I'll go back and execute this fourth command. Okay. So then I'll say enter. Okay. Now it is pushing my Docker image to the ECR. Okay. So Elastic Container Service. Okay. Now it says that the command has been executed correctly without any error, right? So now we have successfully pushed our Docker image to the ECR. So let us see practically. So I'll go back to my AWS portal. So click on this. I'll close. Okay. So I'll just refresh the page. Okay, so as you can see in my refresh, when I refresh the page, this is my Docker image. So if I click on this, I can go to the details. So here is my image, right? So now you can say, right, in Docker Hub we are getting this all the Docker repositories. It is having the naming section. First is, it is followed by username and forward slash, then your project name. So in this AWS it is not like that. Just directly you will get one URI. So this URI you can use wherever it is required. For example, I'll show Docker Hub. In this Docker Hub, each repository is having naming section like this: username followed by your project name, right? So whenever I want to use this, so I'm just copying this one, or else you can just use this one. Okay. So in the same way, in when you are storing your image on AWS, this is your URI. Okay, there will be no username or username followed by project name. Okay, so nothing naming section will be there. Directly you can get. Okay, so images, I have one image already available for you, and here you can see they are directly providing you the URL. Okay, this you can use. So I think we have already having one container. So in practical, for example, if you want to run this container, okay, so if you want to deploy this container, already I think we are working on Lightsail, right? So Lightsail, if you are having, if you're having an existing container, what you can do is we'll try to deploy our image directly. So containers, okay, there is one container. I think it is in disabled state. I'll enable it. So enable your container. So this is just for your understanding how you can deploy this ECR image onto container. Okay. So previously in the previous class we have tested with Docker Hub image. Today we will test with ECR image. Okay. So my container is starting. Okay, so let it complete it. So but as you can see, deployment versions, so this is the third deployment, right? So this third deployment, it is coming from Docker Hub, as you can see here. Okay, Hari to Bablu Docker Hub project latest, which is the which is this image is provided from Docker Hub, right? So this is Docker Hub image. So now what we are doing, we have created one image. So I think I'll come again. Console ECR. So this is my image. So last time the last deployment was done from Docker Hub, and today we shall try this deployment which is coming from Amazon ECR. So we have learned the steps how to upload your image onto this upload this image to ECR by using four steps. So what are those four steps? Just select and you can see push commands. So one, two, three, four. These four commands we have used. So for the first command, we wanted to log in using login into this AWS CLI account. So to execute this AWS command, we have installed the software called AWS CLI. So after the installation of this command, we will be able to execute AWS commands, right? So first, what we have tried, first we have to first command. What we should do is we should do this AWS configure, right? So AWS configure, we have to do this AWS configure will log in into our AWS account. So for that we need access key and secret key. So where we got this access key and secret key, that we have bought from this IAM section. Go to this IAM section. So inside this IAM section, right side will have my security credentials. If you click on this, scroll down, you'll find a section called access keys. So here I have created one access key. So it has provided me one access key and secret key. Okay, here we have created this. So this has provided me details. Then I have provided my access key ID and secret key ID. Then I have left default region and output format as none. So after completing this AWS configure command, I have completed the four commands. First command, second command, third command, and fourth command. Okay, this is how I'm able to push my Docker image to the Docker hub. Okay, so now I think okay my container is running. I would like to add new deployment here. So I click on modify your deployment. So I'll say my project Docker Hub. Instead of that, I'll say my ECR image. Okay. So as you know, here we need to provide our image. So image we have to get from this. So that is ECR Elastic Container Registry. So this is my URL. Just copy this URL and paste it into this image section. Okay. So image section. Just scroll down and click on save and deploy. Or else if you want to add the endpoint, you can also add my ECR image, port number 80. No problem. Then I'll say save and deployment. Okay, save and deploy. This step will bring the image from ECR and it will deploy in this container. So let us see how it will happen. So let this process complete. I think this deployment should happen in a faster way. Why? Because my image is located inside the AWS server, right? So this is internal transfer, whereas in the previous class we have tried to bought this from outside server. Okay, this image was there on Docker Hub. Okay, so this should happen very fast than the previous one. Okay, now you can see the status is in running condition. So if we scroll down and see, this is today's deployment, and this is version number 4, and it is active. As you know, this fourth version, it has we bought it from ECR, right? So as you can see, by using the image link, it is provided from ECR.AWS. Okay, so now we shall see if at all our container is running or not. If I click on this, it will open. Okay, so this is coming from my ECR. So today what we have done, so we have uploaded one image onto this ECR, and we have deployed that ECR image. Okay, so I think I'll just complete the steps also. So log in into get access key and secret key. Okay, sixth one, create a repository on ECR. Okay, next seventh step is uh, execute for commands provided by ECR. Okay, so that steps we already know. So when you select this repository name, so click on this view push commands. It will show you the 4 commands. Okay, so if you execute these 4 commands step by step, then your image will be deployed onto this ECR. Okay, so I'll say step by step. Okay, then next task, deploy ECR image onto Amazon Lightsail container. Okay, so this we have to work. Okay, so this we have done today, and tomorrow what we shall do is we shall work on this elastic container service, and we'll go in the practical part of that. Okay, I think today we have given some introduction on this ECS. So from tomorrow we'll start the practical of working with ECS. Okay, once we'll complete ECS, and then we will move on to EKS. Okay, so I think that is it for today's class. Okay, so if you are having any doubts, you can stay, or else the other guys you can leave the class. Okay.